Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's story is one that will truly touch your heart and make you rethink what really matters in life. It's about a powerful billionaire father, a quiet maid, and a young boy who was learning something far more valuable than money could ever buy. The city skyline shimmered under the late afternoon sun as black luxury cars lined the entrance of a towering mansion. Inside, everything spoke of wealth: marble floors, crystal chandeliers, walls lined with expensive art. But despite all the luxury, the house often felt empty. The man who owned it all, a billionaire known for his sharp mind and relentless work ethic, rarely had time to enjoy it. His days were filled with meetings, deals, and endless phone calls. His name carried weight in every business circle, but at home, he was simply a father to a young boy who barely saw him. That evening, something unusual happened. A meeting was cancelled. For the first time in months, he found himself heading home early. No calls, no distractions, just silence as the car glided through the gate. She stepped inside, loosening his tie, expecting the usual stillness. The staff would be quietly doing their duties, his son probably in his room with a tutor or a screen. That was the routine. Predictable. Controlled. But as he walked deeper into the house, he heard something unexpected. Louder, not just a small chuckle, but real, joyful laughter echoing down the hallway. Paused. It had been a long time since he heard that sound in his home. Curious, he followed it. The sound led him toward the living room, but not the formal one, the smaller, cozier space that was rarely used. As he approached, he slowed his steps, not wanting to interrupt. What he saw next made him freeze. His young son was sitting cross-legged on the floor, his school uniform slightly wrinkled, his face glowing with excitement. In front of him sat the maid, the quiet woman who had been working in the house for years, but she wasn't cleaning, she was teaching. In her hands was not an expensive tablet or a luxury toy, but a simple notebook. She was drawing something carefully, explaining it with patience and warmth. The boy leaned in, completely absorbed. So if you share it, she said gently, it becomes bigger, not smaller. The boy frowned slightly, thinking. But how can something become bigger if I give it away? The maid smiled, her eyes kind. Because some things don't follow the rules of numbers. Kindness is one of them. The billionaire stood there, hidden just enough to observe. Something about the scene felt different. Rial watched as his son took a small piece of chocolate from beside him. Instead of eating it, he broke it in half and handed one piece to the maid. Like this? The boy asked. She hesitated. That's yours. But you said it becomes bigger, he insisted. She accepted it slowly, her smile soft but emotional. Yes, just like that. The father felt something stir inside him. Had given his son everything: money, the best schools, the most expensive tutors, but had he ever taught him that? He stepped forward. The sound of his shoes against the marble made both of them look up. The boy's eyes widened with excitement. Dad! You're home early. The maid quickly stood up, her posture shifting back to professional. Sir, I'm sorry, I was just... He raised his hand gently, stopping her for a moment. He didn't speak, simply looked at them, the notebook, the chocolate, the warmth that filled the room. What were you teaching him? He finally asked. His voice was calm, but there was something deeper behind it. The maid hesitated, unsure if she had overstepped. Just a small lesson, sir, she said quietly. About what? She looked down briefly, then met his eyes. About kindness. About sharing. About things that aren't taught in books. The room fell silent. The billionaire glanced at his son, who was now watching him closely. Dad, did you know kindness gets bigger when you share it? The boy said eagerly. I forced a small smile. Is that so? The boy nodded enthusiastically. The father walked slowly into the room, each step heavier than the last. They sat down, not on the couch, but on the floor beside them. Both the boy and the maid looked surprised. Picked up the notebook. Simple drawings filled the pages, little hearts, stick figures helping each other, words written in neat, careful handwriting. Nothing expensive, nothing impressive, and yet, everything about it felt meaningful. Where did you learn this? He asked the maid. She answered softly, from life, sir. He looked at her for a long moment. There was no arrogance in her voice. No attempt to impress. Just honesty. Continue, he said quietly. She blinked, surprised. Sir? The lesson, he clarified. Continue teaching him. I'd like to watch. The boy beamed. The maid slowly sat back down, Still unsure but encouraged, she began again, explaining how small acts could change someone's day, how respect mattered more than status, how listening was sometimes more important than speaking. The billionaire really listened, and for the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about business deals or numbers. She was thinking about his son, about what kind of person he was becoming, about what he himself had become. As the lesson ended, the boy hugged the maid without hesitation. "Thank you," he said. She smiled, gently patting his head. The father stood up slowly. "You may go," he said to the maid, but his tone was different now, softer. She nodded and left the room quietly. The boy ran upstairs, still talking about kindness and sharing, and then it was just him alone in that room that suddenly didn't feel empty anymore. Looked around, the same walls, the same furniture, but something had changed. Or maybe he had. The next morning, the house buzzed with its usual routine, but there was a subtle shift. The billionaire called the maid into his study. She entered nervously, unsure of what to expect. "Did I do something wrong, sir?" she asked. Shook his head. "No. You did something right. Something I should have done a long time ago." She looked confused, leaned forward slightly. "My son, he needs more of what you taught him yesterday. Not just once. Every day." Her eyes widened. "Sir, from now on," he continued, "you will spend an hour each day with him. Not as a maid, but as a teacher." She was speechless. "But sir, I'm not educated." "Education isn't always about degrees," he interrupted gently. "Sometimes, it's about understanding life. And you understand it better than most people I know." There was a long pause. "Thank you," she said quietly. Over the following weeks, something incredible began to happen. The boy changed, started noticing people, the staff, the guards, even strangers. She greeted them, thanked them, listened, and slowly, the house itself began to feel different, warmer, more alive. But the biggest change was in the billionaire. Began coming home earlier, not every day, but more often. Sometimes he would sit quietly during the lessons, just observing. Other times, he would join in, awkward at first but trying. One evening, as the sun set outside, the boy asked a question. "Dad, what's the most important thing in the world?" The room went still. The billionaire opened his mouth to answer, but paused before he would have said success, power, money. But now, those words didn't feel right. Looked at his son, then at the maid, and finally, he smiled. "Being a good person," he said. The boy nodded, satisfied. The maid's eyes softened, and in that moment, the billionaire realized something he had spent his entire life chasing but had never truly understood. Wealth could build a house, but it couldn't build a home. That required something else entirely, something simple, something human, something he had almost forgotten: kindness. And as the laughter returned to the mansion once again, louder and more genuine than ever before, he knew one thing for sure: coming home early that day had changed everything. And sometimes, the most valuable lessons in life don't come from the most powerful people, they come from the quietest ones, the ones who expect nothing but give everything. And that's the story for today. If it touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Until next time, take care, and remember, kindness always grows when you share it.